Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Doggone Truth About Rescue with Always and Forever. This evening, we have two guests with us to discuss fostering and the process of fostering a dog through Always and Forever and cats, but more specifically dogs with this episode. And so, Sai, would you like to introduce our guests?
Sure. Well, actually, they can introduce themselves. Thank you for joining us today.
I am Megan Swan.
I'm Jessica Prochnow.
Okay, Megan, can you tell us a little something about yourself and how you started with Always and Forever, or if this is your full-time job?
Sure. I found Always and Forever back in 2018. I was just scrolling Facebook and saw Always and Forever and fell in love. We were actually in Oklahoma at that time. We ended up moving to Kansas City, and I still had no clue that Kansas City was so close to Always and Forever. So I decided just to look one day where they were, and I found out that it was only about 45 minutes to 50 minutes away from me. And I was so excited. I remember I could not wait to tell my husband that it was so close. He knew how much I followed them and knew all the dogs there, just like everybody does when they follow on Facebook. So went to the orientation, I believe it was in April of 2019, and I never left. Started doing a lot of volunteering. I then, with Amy Stecker, did the boarding dogs. So we kind of led that program where we would get the boarding dogs out, take them for walks, and we had a team for that. And then I started to do foster coordinator. I think that was around 2020. I still do that, and I also do HR for Always and Forever. And then I have a full-time job with Hallmark where I'm human resources.
Thank you. How about you, Jessica?
So I actually went to one of the very first orientations at Always and Forever. I saw a Facebook post and I was like, okay, I need to get out of this house because I was a stay-at-home mom. So I sent a message asking if my 4-year-old daughter could come with me to orientation, and they said absolutely. That's how I started. I went to orientation, and I remember Sunshine and Pink Ladybug, they were in a corner like scared of everybody at the barn. And my daughter, Quinn, actually crawled over there and snuggled up next to them. And then halfway through, she fell asleep. And that's how most of the people remembered me, was my daughter falling asleep on my shoulder. And then after that, volunteering, I think almost every weekend, I became a hospice foster. And that's really the first time I met Jen. Was she met me out in the driveway and took Toby and put him in my van because he had just got neutered and they had made a plea post. I just fell in love with his face. And then I started doing vet drives and then I saw the post for a part-time position. Megan automatically messaged me and said, when do you want to start? Yep. Started off as part-time, became full-time manager, then helped open a few other locations, did adoption coordinator for a while, and now I'm co-foster coordinator with Megan.
Jess has done it all.
Except for medical.
Which is a beast in itself.
Right.
Yes.
We've heard from our other episodes, and that will be an upcoming episode. But thank you both for the time and commitment you do put in for fostering. It is such a crucial point, I believe, of the organization, and getting the dogs out of the Little Red Barn, Little Gray Barn, Greeley, and into homes to then get the content for people to envision them in their home. So thank you so much for that. So can you kind of go over what fostering does look like through Always and Forever?
The thing that I usually say when people ask what fostering looks like or what fostering is, you're literally giving that dog or cat a home and love. We provide everything else for them. So if that's food, if it's a crate, if it's, medicine, whatever that they need, we provide all of that. We just want them to be in a home and be relaxed and be loved in that home and know, that they have all of those people around them and they have the support. So that's really what, when you look at fostering, it's helping out a dog, getting them in a home, and those people will be promoting them to get into their forever home. So it's kind of a halfway point, but they get love through the whole process.
What you would recommend to somebody if they don't know if they should foster or adopt first? What is the conversation you have when somebody comes up and say, I know I want a dog at some point, what do you recommend for me?
I typically suggest fostering because even with adoptions, we do have the foster to adopt option just because some people just don't know if that's the right fit for them, the perfect dog for them. So I always suggest fostering because for that one dog or cat that we get into a home, that gives us another chance to save another one. So I always suggest fostering first.
And that's the key thing that I want to make sure that we point out too, is that's a really good point, Jess, that once we get a dog into a home, it also benefits so many more dogs and cats everywhere else that we can tag and bring into the barn or wherever. But it just saves another life. It saves a lot of lives.
So if I was thinking of fostering a dog, say I saw it on the Always and Forever website and contacted you, is there a timeline of how long I have to have the animal for? Is it I tell you my availability and then you find one that would be a good match for me?
So it's talking through that process.
Okay.
So somebody would apply on the website, and we have a foster team now, which is fantastic. It's wonderful. They would pull the application and look through just a lot of when the person is home. So on the application, it has how many hours you're home. What does your home life look like? Do you have any other pets? Those type of things. So we have a welcome team member who would have that conversation with that person. And then from that point, we would be able to find the right animal for them.
Can you share what are the next steps after an application has been approved for a foster?
So after they're approved, the process can take up to 2 weeks after you fill out the form. After they're approved, depending on who pulled that application, we would contact you and, talk with you and say, are you ready? What do you need? Which dog? Like if they didn't pick a specific dog, we try to pair them with the best dog possible. That's where we really rely on, our staff at each barn, each location, to help us pick the perfect pet. So after they're approved, we find out what they need, and then we set up a time for them to come out and, if it's just a single dog, they don't have another dog in their home, they just come out, they meet the dog, they pick up the dog and any supplies that they need, and then they have constant contact with, Megan or me or Danielle or Christy. They always have somebody that they can call and talk to if there's issues or things that come up. Now, if they have another dog in the home, they have the option bringing their dog out to do like a meet and greet to make sure everything is good. Or we send out a form that Michaela, our trainer on staff, has, typed up, written out on steps to follow and introducing their dog to our dog. So those would be the next steps.
Do you need to be local to foster? Can there be fosters out of state?
So the 2 states that we say you can foster in are Kansas and Missouri. And then if there is a hospice dog, we can allow that in Oklahoma as well, because we have vets in Oklahoma, and we would not need to do any type of meet and greets, so they could stay there in Oklahoma. And we've had 1 or 2 hospice dogs in Oklahoma with the foster.
Can you go over the conversation you have when someone approaches you interested in doing a hospice foster, just because that is such a delicate case? Or do you approach people that apply, would you be interested in this? Like, what do you see more often? People looking for it or you recommending it?
It's mainly so whenever we get a hospice dog in, or we have a dog who is hospice, we'll do a post and we'll share, the medical needs, what's going on with that particular dog, and that we really need a hospice foster. At that point, that's when people usually step up and either email us or contact us or fill out the application to hospice foster. The big part of the conversation also is that it's hard. It's a really hard thing to do. I know Jess has done it before, and it's emotional, it's hard, but I will say people who have done it have said it's the very best thing they've ever done. Very best thing ever.
Do you want to talk about yours, Jess? Experience as being a hospice foster?
So if I get a little emotional,
That's
I'm sorry.
okay. We're here. Every single one of our episodes so far has been
been a
emotional.
crybaby, yep.
Si's cried every time, so it's okay.
So Toby was actually my very first hospice foster. I had just lost my dog Riley. He was 15 years old. He was just unhealthy. And my dog Lucky she was sad. You could tell she was missing her buddy. So I saw this post about Toby, and renal failure. And my husband's like, no, we're not doing it. And I said, okay. I couldn't let it go. So I took him home. I met Jen in the driveway. She literally picked him up and put him in my van. My son was with me and my daughter were with me. Toby loved my kids. They'd walk out of the room and he would just bark, want to be near them. And Lucky, she was so happy to have another dog in the house. It wasn't easy. He had renal failure, so he had medication. He peed all over the house. And I'm the type of person, you just clean it up and you go on.
That's what Sheila with Bailey.
We have pee pads behind us as we speak right now.
Exactly. I mean, and I had a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, so messes just didn't bother me. So we had him for 3 beautiful months. Like I said, the kids would leave the room and he'd get up and he'd try to go find them. I'd go downstairs in the basement and he would never bark, ever. And the only time he ever barked was when I would go downstairs in the basement and he couldn't see me anymore. He would stand at the top of the stairs and just bark until I would walk back to where he could see me, because he couldn't go down the stairs. There was one day that you couldn't touch his stomach anymore. You couldn't pet him. I thought we were just going for an initial checkup thing. I know they're like, Jen said it's time. And Quinn was with me and we cried. It was an experience. I wouldn't change it for the world, because after Toby, there came Levi and Alina, and they both had the exact same cancer in the exact same spots. Levi actually was a service dog. His cancer we didn't really find out about until somebody wanted to adopt him. He started coughing. We did a chest x-ray, and I said I can't let him go. So he became a hospice foster. I actually adopted, I wanted to adopt him, but Levi and Alina both had cancer in the same exact spots. I fell in love with Levi for my son Wyatt, which is autistic. He'd have meltdowns, and Levi would go console him and calm him down. And Alina, she loved my daughter. I wouldn't change hospice fostering for anything.
I know I talked about it on other episodes, the special energy and environment that's created around you, around senior dogs. And especially when it's a hospice case, you get that daily reminder of how precious life is that I think a lot of people forget about in your everyday hustle, bustle, on the go schedule. And then when you finally open up your doors to a hospice animal like that and foster, and you're forced to slow down and appreciate every single moment, it just puts life in a whole different perspective. I thank you so much for doing that. I didn't realize you did it, especially 3 times in a row, sharing that story, because I know there's someone out there listening that can relate to it. And even if it is hard, it's worth it.
It was not easy by any means. I mean, fostering in general is not easy whatsoever, but it's a little bit harder with hospice dogs. I mean, when it gets closer to time, it gets harder. I mean, we threw away a couch because Levi, his meds, he would drink a ton of water and he would pee, and it got to the point where he just couldn't control his bladder anymore. Alina, the same thing. It got to the point where she was having trouble breathing and she stopped eating, and she was only 3 years old.
Wow.
So it is so funny, because the day they diagnosed her with cancer, they started talking about her cancer that happened to be in her armpit on her right side, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's just like Levi. I called my husband and I said, I love you, and he goes, who are you bringing home?
So he has opened up to the ideas.
He has. So I mean,
I don't think he's opened up. She just brings them home.
She just does it anyway.
I bring them home and ask for forgiveness. But Lena was only 3 years old, so when they diagnosed her, I just happened to be at work that day, and I was like, I'm taking her home, because I already had everything I needed. It had probably been six months since Levi had passed. I wasn't planning on it, but I don't know. She pulled up my heartstrings.
And how long, so time frame, because hospice is, you don't know when you take that on. How long? I'm going to bring in Bailey on this. I took her to the vet in March, and she has a mass on her spleen, and the vet said could be days, weeks, months, and she's still fighting, going strong, loving life.
She is.
6 months later you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to share with people too, that if they're hospice, it may be a day. They might have a night. They may have 2 nights, or they may have 3 months. But that's part of it. Another thing with hospice fostering, I think somebody shared this, one of our hospice fosters, is the hospice foster's hearts break so that the dogs can know only love. And it really hit me.
Is there a certain amount of dogs one can foster?
Like at a time?
Yeah, at a time.
I guess it really just depends.
Yeah, depends on the dogs in the house. It depends on just a lot of things within that person's life.
So if I was single, no dogs, and say I saw a dog on the website that I fell in love with, having a conversation with you, I find out about a hospice dog as well. Have you had anybody that you take a foster, like a hospice foster and a non-hospice dog at the same time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you can mix and match.
Oh, yeah.
We have a couple people. One comes to mind right now, Carol, who usually always has one of our fosters, and then she does take hospice fosters as well. So there's really no limit. I think it just matters on the dogs that are in your house, or if they're cat friendly or that type of thing. But there's really no limit.
So if it's not a hospice foster, how long do you typically see dogs stay in a foster environment before they're either adopted out or the environment changes for the person fostering?
That also varies. It really does.
Yeah, because if it's a dog who cannot be around other dogs, then they're going to be there longer just because they are harder to adapt out. If it's a dog who gets along with cats and dogs, they may be there for a week and they get adopted. So it varies just with what's going on in that home.
So it is almost the same conversation of the hospice timeline, just a different ending.
Correct.
Of like, I could foster for a day and then
Right.
they're
Yeah.
off to their forever
Right.
family.
And there's some people too that we want to make sure that, listeners and everybody know, we also can have fosters who foster for 3 weeks, and that might be all that they can do, but that gets the dogs out for 3 weeks in a home. And so it doesn't have to be, if the dog goes, they have to keep them till they're adopted. Yes, that's, what we would like because there's not so much change, but it does get a dog in a home for that time. And then people can see that that dog's in a home
Right.
and they'll be more likely to foster.
I love Always and Forever and their volunteers because I noticed that when there's volunteers that are fostering one of Always and Forever's dogs, if they need to go on vacation for a week, they're always like, hey, this is Murray. I'm looking for, my fosters are going on vacation for a week. Like, I love that. And how huge our outreach is on Facebook, on social media, period. So, yes, I know that is an option out there for our fosters that do take in dogs. So,
And I think that is very important because that is the biggest thing I think that defers people from getting a dog in the first place is I travel a lot. I'm not as home as often, or sports schedules.
Yeah.
Not being able to commit fully, but Always and Forever has that built in.
Right.
Of like, it's okay if you have other things going on. They can come back for a little bit. Like, we got it.
Well, and that's just like the dog dates or the overnights, those type of things where, kind of funny story here with the dog dates, how that even came about. It was Easter of 2020, and I will never forget this because that's when everything was shut down. We weren't having anybody come to the barn, so a lot had slowed up. Jen had this idea on Easter, how about we just let people come and take dogs out on dates? It was literally that day, and she made a post, and we had like 50 foster applications coming in
Awesome.
that day to take dogs on date. And we're like, hello, like, were you not going to say anything? Like, what's going on here? But that took off. And it's been such a huge hit of people just wanting to come and take dogs on dates. And they take them to the park, they take them for walks, just doing those type of things. We have somebody who comes to the Little Gray Barn and takes Roma a
Yep.
lot.
Yep.
Rebecca,
She
she's
did.
wonderful.
She was.
So it's so fun for them that she has a home, she has cats. And so she's not able to foster a dog.
That's awesome.
So she takes Roma out, and it's wonderful.
Always and Forever, they do pay for like hotels, dinner dates. So that's what I also love about the.
Jess, are you over those ones?
That's actually what I take care of. I do the hotel sleepovers. I typically try to pick one dog from each barn, mainly the ones that are in most need, that have been with us the longest, that don't get out, they don't have dates, like nobody really goes and sees them. So on Monday, I usually make a post talking about the specific pup. By Wednesday, I'm hoping that I have like 2 or 3 people that want to go. So then we book the hotel, and we use 2 specific hotels. One is located half near the Red Barn, and then there's another one that's located near the Gray Barn. And they've been amazing. They know, hey, each week we're going to have a sleepover. We do pay for the hotel room, and then I send a $25 DoorDash gift certificate so they can order in. They can have food delivered to their room. And I had one is a stay-at-home mom, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to color my hair. I'm going to finish my book. I'm going to have some peace and quiet. I'm going to snuggle with the dog. Like, she was so excited about it. We've had a few comments about how it's cruel and it's unfair to the dog, but really it isn't. It's so rewarding for them. They get a night to just decompress.
It's the same as a human. Of
Right.
like, I get
Yeah.
a night in the hotel, no distractions. The dog next to me isn't bothering me. Like,
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
We've even had people come in from out of town. We had 2 ladies who specifically came in town to take 2 dogs on a hotel date.
Yeah.
And they each got separate rooms, and it was so fun just to watch it all night. The dogs were having a blast. They ordered in, but it was a little vacation for them. So
Yeah.
it was really really neat.
I mean, they get a night to
Comfy bed.
decompress.
Yeah.
And they get, we try to restrict them getting people food on the doggy date because medical will kind of message me. We're like, okay, if you're going to feed them human food, make sure it's not super greasy, stuff like that. But we pay for the hotel room, we pay for dinner. All we want is a few pictures, a video, and then we post it. And I think every weekend, I even had somebody message and say, hey, where's the update for Novell? And I said, nobody wanted to take her. So So if anybody wants to take Novell, she still has one in waiting.
If I wanted to do the hotel date night, is it the same application that I need to fill out if I was looking to foster long time? What are the steps besides reaching out to get vetted to take a dog to a hotel?
You have to have the foster app approved. We don't do the home check on it just because they won't be going to the home, they'll be going to the hotel. And we know the hotels, but it is the same process. So they have to have the foster app in, copy of the driver's license, stuff like that. Typically, I look to see who's made a comment on the post and then if they've emailed me or sent me a personal message. And that's typically how I pick. First person that says, hey, I want to go, I'm like, okay, sold.
I'm shocked there's not a wait list for this, honestly.
I had one weekend where we had, I think, 4 people. So
Okay.
we had 2 at the north locations, and then we had 2 from the Red Barn. So that was really neat.
And then I also know for holidays, we do things around that as well with the dogs. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so around Thanksgiving and Christmas, we want the dogs to be able to spend the holidays in a home. So we put a big blast out and post all of the dogs and have people sign up to take them home for that time. Even if they can take them home for one night of Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve and Christmas. That's just wonderful. And people love it. The year of I think it was 2020, which a lot of people were home then, but we cleared the barns each time, all of the barns where all of the dogs were in a home. And I can't even tell you, it makes me emotional to think about it because that was just so amazing.
And it instills memories within the family of looking back at the photos, of opening up their hearts to share that moment with a dog that wouldn't have it otherwise. Sai, are you going to take one home over the holidays?
I will.
Nas
or Tobin. I really want to take Edison.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I don't think Edison's been out.
He hasn't.
I try to take a doggy out for, if I know I'm working one night, I want to take, after I get off of work, I want to take one dog home that I know that hasn't been out, like I did with Tobin last month. We went to the lake. I'm not going to say what we had for dinner. Sorry, medical team. We cuddled, watched movies, because I know he hasn't been out. I want to be able to do that on a weekend where I know I'm free. But yeah, I'm going to try Edison.
I mean, it's so neat for people to see them in a home too. So when you post those pictures of Tobin laying with you, people have never seen Tobin like that. So they don't know, hey, he's a cuddly dog.
Picture of me. That was an ugly picture of me. But Tobin was so cute.
Well,
But that is a huge point of you don't know it unless you see it.
Yeah.
And people need to see them in that environment to then picture it of that could be me, like marketing 101. You need to envision it, see it, and then you want it.
Right. Or
If
that
you don't see it, you don't know you want it. You don't know you want Edison in your bed until you see Edison.
Right. I mean, we all say how they're, yeah, we say they're cuddly. We say that they're doing this, or, we post those things. But until you see the dog in the bed or in the hotel stays cuddling with that person, it's powerful.
Jess, I want to go back. You mentioned the house check. Can you go over what is required as a foster? Like, do you come to my house? Do I need to come do an interview in person, over the phone? What is that whole process of getting the application, after the application filled out?
Megan used to do this all on her own for forever. She would handle all applications by herself. She didn't have a team until last month. Yeah. I mean, it's a process. They'll talk about this with the adoption process too, because it's pretty similar. The home check it's all virtual. I mean, I've done Zoom, I've done Duo, I've done Facebook Messenger. I mean, it's just FaceTime. You're doing like a video call. We basically just want you to walk through the house and see where the pup's going to be. The dogs are kind of like toddlers. They're going to chew on things. They're going to get into things. So we want to make sure that the home is safe. Chemicals put up. Are the yard fenced? Depending on which dog they end up taking with them. Where's the dog going to stay? Are they going to be able to get on the furniture? Those are the things that some of the things we look for, some of the things we ask. Where are you going to put their crate? Like, if they need to be kenneled, like, are you going to ban it?
Closet or
Are you locking them in a bathroom like when you're gone?
Yeah, those are the things that we ask and we look for. Because some of the dogs, they need a kennel. They have to be kenneled or they're going to destroy your house. That's something that we ask and look for and we talk to them about. So it's all virtual, and we have a team that does that. It's not whoever pulls the application isn't doing the home check, because we're a team. They might see something that we don't see pulling the application, just like we have people that do reference checks and
That's what I was just going to ask of the reference. You had mentioned your husband at first was saying no. Mm-hmm. So do you check with significant others or family members to make sure that everyone is okay with it?
Yeah, that's actually one of the questions on both applications, foster and adoption, is if everybody in the house is on board.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We talk about it.
Jessica lied on hers.
He doesn't count some. No.
Which I'm sure it probably happens here and there.
Right.
I know they'll come around. They just have to see the dog first.
Right.
Like Hosha's foster. Her foster took her on a doggy date and fell in love with her. She went home. Well, she took her, I guess they stopped by the house so she could show her husband. And her husband's like, okay, short term, she's here for a day. And then the husband fell in love with her too. Saw a post for her, and the husband's like, just finish the application. Because they hadn't done the home check or something. Mm-hmm. So that's how Hosha came about. The wife took her home for a doggy date, and the husband fell in love, and then he became on board. So
could happen either way.
Can we get into the homestead? What does the homestead mean to you two, and how is the homestead going to help with the fostering of A&F dogs? Jess?
Don't make me go.
They're pointing fingers.
Okay, so what the homestead means to me is, I just think it's amazing. Jen had talked about the land behind the Red Barn, I don't know how many times, how she just wished she knew who owned it, and if it ever came available, she was just going to jump on it. And it happened. But it's going to be beautiful. We're going to have so many barns there, so many activities. But I mean, as far as fostering with the homestead, we're still gonna need fosters.
More, probably.
Yeah, we're gonna. Oh my
Since we'll be so big, we're gonna need more.
Yeah, we're gonna need lots of fosters. Just because even though we're gonna have the facility, we're gonna have the barns, but we're gonna have to have employees and volunteers and people to help with those barns. But we're still gonna need fosters. Certain dogs taken out of that situation, out of the barns, just they are not thriving. They're actually going in the opposite direction. Like they're starting to shut down. So I think fostering is still going to be a high demand. You'll get to see a dog in a home, but to learn more about their personality, because their personality in a home is completely different than they are in the barn. Fostering I think it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, and we're going to have with so many different places. We have how many barns on the homestead that we're going to have so many more animals that we're going to need a lot more fosters.
And I think if you come to look at a dog to foster, they'll all be right there for you.
Right.
Well, now I don't have to drive all the way to Little Gray Barn because I kind of liked a dog there, but I kind of was interested in a dog down at Little Red Barn.
Right.
Everybody will just be right there for you. So our last episode was about David's Day, which is 2 weeks away now. If you haven't started planning for that, start planning.
So I haven't really picked another shelter, and in all honesty, I kind of want to go wherever Linda's going to go and be with her that day. It's still not a reality some days, just because David used to live in the same neighborhood as me. There's a walking trail behind my house. So every time, same time, every day, here'd come David for his evening stroll with his pup. Out would run my daughter to say hi to David. So I haven't picked a shelter yet. Still hard for me to go past his house. We avoid that. In all honesty, I don't know. My husband says I'm kind of crazy. I kind of want to go get his sunflower emblem that he had on his van. I want to go get that tattooed. So maybe I'll go do that day.
Did you go somewhere last year?
I think I was actually working that day. I was actually at the barn. I actually had to work at the barn that day, so I didn't really get to go visit anywhere.
I didn't either. My dog Stella had surgery, and I was at home with her, so...
So Jess, were you on the back end of it then of receiving on David's Day, since you were
Yeah.
working, what was coming in that people decided to donate to Always and Forever, and what was that like?
So, I mean, we had tons of donations after the whole excitement that morning. And it was also a sad day that day because Annalise, with all the donations that came in, I knew I was where I needed to be that day. Because if David was still here after his bike ride, no matter how tired he would have been at the barn. If I don't pick another shelter, I know exactly where I'll be.
I think that's very understandable. And as Amy said in last week's episode, you don't have to pick another shelter either. If your heart is with Always and Forever and that's who you want to give your donation to, or more importantly, your time in your case, it's about what David's vision was and what he wanted, and that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And I think that's
So-
a good point to touch on, is that people don't have to go out and do things for David's Day. Like I said, I was at home, but I still did David's Day at my house and made a sign and still donated to a shelter and donated to Always and Forever.
Yep.
But you can still celebrate if you're wherever all over the world, even if you can't get out, you can still do it.
Yeah, especially for our listeners over
Oh, we are
different-
in 25.
How many countries?
You would get this in here. 25 total countries and 276 total cities.
Yeah. Also, again, another reminder is that on Facebook we have an event tab for our listeners to get more info on David's Day. Megan.
Yep.
Or
So
not
I
gonna-
will be going to, well, I won't be going. Let me start over. All right. So
Keep that in.
for David, oh my goodness. For David's Day, I will be not going to the shelter, but I will be partnering with people at a shelter near St. Louis where I got two of my pup. One of them passed away just 2 weeks ago. My parents had him. I'll be celebrating for them and David.
Appreciate that. With the David's Day, for the fostering part of it, are we doing anything special for that? Of take a dog for the day for David's Day?
I mean, absolutely. If any of the volunteers, fosters, some of our fosters, they like to take a break in between pups. So absolutely, maybe just taking them for the day, spending the whole day with them.
And some people did that last year where they took some of the barn dogs or foster dogs with them to the different shelters. So they had just some really cute pictures of them in the car with all the supplies that they took. And it was just fun for those people who want to do the dog dates and those type of things where they could take them.
Right, because not monetary wise, if you don't have the extra money to be spending or donating to a shelter, your time is even more valuable than that. So if you are thinking of a dog date on David's Day, highly recommended.
Yes.
This is like our fifth episode, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, every new person that we've had on our podcast is like, has that heart. You guys really do love Always and Forever. I'm getting to be a crybaby right now. Edit that out.
So it's true. I mean, and we say, how Jen always says that, Always and Forever have saved the pups, but they've saved us. Always and Forever saved us.
Yeah, another episode of us crying, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be more because we get down to the nitty gritty of the doggone truth of rescue.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's why I told you every single episode is emotional, because this is an emotional topic. We're talking about the discarded dogs that were not wanted by anybody else, and us putting our heart and soul to help them find that home.
Rescue's hard.
Like, if you don't have emotion in that, as Jen said on our meeting the other day, then this isn't
exactly
what you should be in.
Right. It's so hard, but oh my gosh, it's so worth it.
Yeah, there's
so
level
worth it.
to this.
Yes.
There's levels. This episode is sponsored by, Megan, do you have a dog?
Roma.
Oh, my sweet Roma.
My little baby Roma. I love her.
Roma is at the Little Gray Barn. A lot of people love Roma, but I'm just surprised.
Was she already recommended on an episode as a sponsor?
Roma's been giving
love her.
shout outs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jess, which dog are you going to sponsor the episode to?
I mean, I have Buck as my my Zoom profile picture. Oh gosh, but then I love Libro and Novell. Like it's so hard. It's really hard.
I'm sitting here thinking of like 3 others that I could have said, or 5 or 10.
I'm gonna say, I really want to say Buck, because he's been great with my daughter.
Are you giving your husband a heads up right now?
No, because my daughter picked out Hope and Miss Sunshine for her birthday to foster.
I love it.
And she actually took the camera to my husband and said, "Daddy, I want this for my birthday." And he said, "You're like your mother."
It's very smart. It's a very smart tactic.
So you're at 2. And so about Buck.
3 cats too, so.
So as much as you love Buck, so everyone knows he is a black-mouth cur greyhound mix, 54 pounds, but his background story and why he wouldn't be a good fit with your home. I'm doing a foster application check on you right now, and I'm denying you.
Yeah.
Because Buck is 5 years old, and he was dumped at a vet's office when his family moved to town because he used to be a hunting dog.
Yep.
And they moved into the city and didn't think that he would make a good city dog. Unfortunately, decided to leave him at the vet, which got him on the euthanasia list. And then there was an incident, I believe, at a dog shelter or a daycare with another dog. So Buck is under our single dog home only. So sorry, Jess. You can visit.
I do visit.
But Buck is a lover, cuddler.
He is.
Very well trained. Like I will say, with his background that he has with whatever family he was with, does listen to commands of sit, stay.
He actually went to Joint Forces.
Yes.
Just because even though he does listen to commands and stuff, he used to be a wild man.
Very strong.
On the
Very.
leash, harness, a martingale collar, a slip lead, like 3 leashes.
Well, he has come a long way then.
He has.
Because Buck, I know, is doing great. So, well, we always leave the episode with one quote from each of you of the first thing that comes to mind when you hear Always and Forever.
So many things.
Does it have to be a quote?
A
or
quote,
it's like-
word, feeling, just
Yeah.
when someone mentions Always and Forever to you,
Goodness
what's the
gracious.
first thing?
There's so much.
I know.
My husband says I always glow. Like,
That's a good one.
That is good.
That's a good one.
Better than a quote.
yeah, like, I don't know, when we go out and people ask where I work, because I don't work, like, Always and Forever is my full-time job. He says, there are a few things that I light up when I talk about, and he says I always glow when I talk about A&F.
You're glowing right now.
Thank you.
I'd probably say, like I just said, that save a lot of animals, but Always and Forever have saved humans, including me.
Okay, so that concludes our 5th episode.
5.
Yeah.
High five.
Yeah, give me some. All right. Jess and Megan, thank you guys so much for joining us today.
And if people want to foster, they will be in contact with you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys.
And as always, it's never too late for a happily ever after.